I have a feeling that this is probably going to draw a performance bonus for one of these guys. And hey, the guy on the left-hand side, Joaquin Buckley, did he get 200 G's from Dana White? I don't know. But the one thing that I know for sure is that after that viral sensation of a knockout win over Impa Kasanganay, Kanye West decided to drop a track over that knockout.
No.
How wild was that? So we have new Mansa, Joaquin Buckley, picking up an entirely new subsection of fans. And hey, if you're here for that knockout, A, we appreciate you. B, toss a sub and a like. I will ask you for that right off the bat.
See, we like Kanye too.
Overall, I look at this fight and hey, the Beverly Hills Ninja is a nickname that should only be reserved for Chris Farley and Chris Farley only. Rest in peace. But I'm looking at this fight as a 50-50 because both of these guys have huge knockout power. You have Jordan Wright coming in. The only blemish on his record, that no contest against fluffy Anthony Hernandez, where he did get finished, but Anthony Hernandez, as Stephen A. Smith would say, got popped for the weed.
Can't be doing it.
So Jordan Wright gets a no contest. He goes back to LFA and picks up a big win over Gabriel Checo, a guy that you might recognize who's fought some really good names. Then he comes back in and he has a fight on, notice, I guess, against Ike Villanueva. Now, Ike Villanueva at 265 against Chase Sherman did not look that great. Ike Villanueva at 205, where Jordan Wright, and you can see it with the asterisks, he came in at 200 pounds because, again, short notice, and he's a middleweight. Jordan Wright had a great performance in that one. So he picks up a win. I know it was due to a cut, but he was really putting it on Villanueva in that one. For Buckley, we knew him coming into the UFC because he had competed with LFA. He had that revenge game against Jackie Ghosh that we had seen him fight him earlier on in his career. It was a makeup. He gets a win there. Comes into the UFC against a guy that fights every single weekend or every other weekend. And Kevin Holland got a big fight coming up against Jack Hermanson, which is crazy because he's a fourth-ranked middleweight. But Joaquin Buckley, in a loss, gave a good account of himself. And it was one of those fights where you go, hey, this is a guy that you definitely have to keep your eye on. He comes in against Impa Kasanganay, and I mean, Matt, it was a fight where what's going to happen? A guy gets a win with a loss. Buckley 0-2 in the UFC. For Impa Kasanganay, he was coming off a big win over Maki Pitolo. There were big things and big, possibilities in that fight. But again, who could have predicted that Kanye West is going to drop a song over your knockout?
Definitely.
How wild is that?
I love Kanye West. Again, I can't stress this enough. I love Kanye West, and not even I thought. You know what? He's just crazy enough to drop a song over this knockout. Great job by Joaquin Buckley. That's the coolest thing you can ever tell anyone for the rest of your life. Joaquin Buckley, I do like what you mentioned about the Kevin Holland fight. We just learned a lot about him in that fight, be it good or bad. We saw how aggressive he is, how good his boxing is. He does have nice boxing. He just throws a little too hard sometimes. I think he's another one of these guys. He realizes the power that he has in his hands. And not that he gets trigger happy with it, but he can get a little overexcited if he does think that he's landing shots. And he'll burn his gas tank out to a certain degree. Joaquin Buckley, he's in that Yoel Romero kind of 50-50 category where is he punching or is he defending? There's not a lot of in-between. It's not like he's a Robert Whittaker who's going to, throw his shots, get out of the way, move out of yours, and then throw his combinations again. He's going to either just throw his combinations and then kind of get his defense up, kind of be smart for a little while, let his battery recharge, and then and then kind of go for it again in those short bursts. But Kevin Holland, again, he's one of these guys who I wouldn't consider him being a entry-level UFC fighter. I definitely have him. He's not in the top 15 yet, but Kevin Holland is on his way there, I would say. I don't think that's a controversial opinion. And for him to beat Joaquin Buckley, if you're Buckley, no shame in that. It was your first fight, it was on short notice, and you lost to a guy who, in a couple months could really be in the top 3. So for Buckley, the cardio in that fight, a bit of an issue. He did get tired as the fight went on, but that could be two things. That could be, A, you're fighting Kevin Holland, and he can hit you from across the cage because he's really good at whipping his shots out there, and that's what he did against Buckley. He did the opposite of what Buckley did. When Buckley throws everything with power, you just throw to hit him, and you just throw to hit him, and you just throw to hit him, and then when the power and the opening does start to come, then Kevin Holland can snap you. And that's exactly what happened. I don't think Jordan Wright can stick to a game plan similar to that, just because he doesn't have sort of the long-range attacks that Kevin Holland has. Kevin Holland's good at keeping people way at the range of his shots and his good front kicks, where Jordan Wright is going to kind of ramp into his shots a little bit. He's going to be the one forcing the action. And that's what makes this fight awesome. These are two guys who refuse to take a single step back, and they're matched up against each other. So I think we're going to get an absolute slobber knocker of a fight that I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in the first round.
I love the comment over on Tapology from Arison, and it says, this feels like a Buckley trap fight, riding this viral fame against a polished undefeated prospect who will have the height and reach advantage. And it is a tough one to try and figure out. The other thing on Joaquin Buckley, I know you might see it, Valkyrie Fitness. That's what he has on his Instagram. If you go on Tapology, a little bit of time at Murcielago MMA.
He's not training with James Krause.
Two names out of Murcielago MMA that pop off the top of my head. You got Daquan Townsend. UFC run didn't go all that great. You got Chaos Williams as well. And holy smokes, what a guy to be able to at least spend a little bit of time with. Is it Kalen? Is it Chaos? Is it the Ox Fighter? It doesn't matter. Finishing fights. For Jordan Wright, again, though, I mean, it was a bit of a question mark, him coming into the UFC, having not really fought the same level of competition as a lot of guys that you might see on that Dana White's Contender Series. Now, if I have a look at the prospect coming out of Dynamics MMA, I talked about it. He's got 6 knockout wins, 5 submission wins. He can definitely get it done on the feet. And out of his total of 12 fights, 20 minutes and 34 seconds. And you look at this, I mean... Ike Villanueva, first round. Checo, second round. Wilkerson, first round. Every other fight's in the first round. Spinning back kick win over Edward Darby, who was 0-21 at the time.
Yikes.
That was always the issue with Jordan Wright, was the fact that he didn't really take on great competition. The Villanueva, it is what it is. Again, the Checo win to me really holds a lot of water. So if we have a look at the odds, Matt, not so much a surprise, but I think it's playing a little bit into the hype. Buckley opened to minus 182 on best fight odds. That's an average. He's now at a minus 270. For Jordan Wright, open to plus 151. He's now at a plus 216. If we have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt, at a 452, and it's early, 70% going Buckley, 81% saying he's going to get the win by knockout. For that 30% that are going right, 62% saying he's going to get the win by knockout, 10% saying he's going to get the win by submission. This is a very tough fight to try and predict. Do I believe that we'll get a decision.
Nah.
But it's a tough one. What are you thinking here?
So, if Joaquin Buckley had only beaten Impa Kasanganay by third round knockout, be it overhand right, be it left hook, whatever, I'd say the odds would be right now, he'd be, I don't know, minus 185 about where they open. The fact that it was such a viral knockout, I'm sure has kind of put, I always call this the Conor McGregor effect. Conor was basically even odds against Khabib when they had fought. Should he have been? No. He probably should have been like a 2, if not 3-1 underdog. And that's where the odds had opened. It's just when you have such notoriety attached to your name. And I'm not really comparing Joaquin Buckley to Conor McGregor, but just in the fact that he had that viral moment. He's a name that has definitely been out there as of late for the UFC. That's why they rebooked him so fast. Because, you know, Joaquin Buckley's name's been in so many headlines. I think he is going to get this win. I was impressed with him up until that Mortal Kombat fatality that he hit. He was landing good shots on the feet. He was backing him up against the cage. And Kasanganay has very good cage presence to where he's always the one kind of doing that to his opponent. He's the one going forward. He's the one implementing his physicality. And for Joaquin Buckley to be able to do that before, of course, he got that such a highlight reel knockout, I thought it was really impressive. So I think you really have to focus on the performance against Kasanganay more than just the finish. And the performance itself was quite impressive. So I'm going to pick Joaquin Buckley. It's hard to tell what his ceiling is going to be moving forward, but in this fight, I do like him.
And that's a tough thing. And I mean, I'm sure there's going to be commenters out there. And if you're picking right, I'm not going to call you a hipster because this is a lot more of a difficult fight to call than a guy who's a minus 270 favorite to a guy who's a plus 216. So if you're picking right, I definitely understand it. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to say, hey, you're only picking Buckley because of the hype. But I do agree with what you were saying. I really like the performance that Buckley was putting on against Kasanganay because he was countering what Kasanganay normally brings into the fight. You saw him implement a good game plan against Sugarfoot Adams on Contender Series for Kasanganay. You saw him have a decent fight against Maki Pitolo. And against Buckley, Buckley didn't let any of that happen. For Jordan Wright, if he crashes forward, maybe there is an opportunity for him, but he could get countered by Southpaw and Buckley. I really like Joaquin Buckley in this fight, and I'm really looking forward to this one. So, Matt, we both have Joaquin Buckley in this fight. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks because we have a great card coming up, headlined by 2 title fights at flyweight. You got Shevchenko, Maia. You got Figueiredo, Perez. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. As we always say, let's get into it.